560theanswer.com, on the AM560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM560, The Answer.
Happy birthday to the Woodson Center. Happy birthday, dear Woodson Center. Happy birthday. Where are you, Amy? Happy birthday to you. Not exactly a Marilyn Monroe quality, but that's the best we could do. Our friend Bob Woodson joins us now, celebrating the 40th anniversary of his Woodson Center. Bob, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, sorry about the singing. Bob, you have been in, the fight of generations for several generations now when it came to the expansion of the welfare state and, civil rights, the expansion of the welfare state, the efforts to lift people out of poverty, the efforts to extend opportunities in education to people regardless of their income, and now curriculum and our understanding of America. This is the fight of this generation, the 1619 Project and critical race theory trying to resegregate America. I don't know if there's another way to put it.
No, it's the new racism. As I've said in my writings, that America doesn't have a race problem, it has a grace problem. And so what we're trying to do and have is marshal the forces of grassroots leaders throughout this nation to push back and resist this attempt to really assault the fundamental values. For the grassroots leaders, this is not some academic exercise. Faith and family and personal perseverance in the face of opposition and is fundamental to their survival. This is how they have overcome the brokenness in their life. As I said, 80% of our closest friends and are people with letters in front of their names, not behind them, that their biggest challenge isn't race. It's overcoming the challenges of life, of drug addiction, of failed families, and their efforts to recover is being interfered with by the race grievance industry. And they are using America's birth defect of slavery and Jim Crow as a weapon against this nation. And we are going to push back by allowing those in whose name the left say they are representing to speak for themselves, to say they don't represent us. And that's what we've been doing, and we're just delighted to play a role in defending this nation's values and fundamental principles.
It's tough because, as you say, the left purports to speak in the name of those you're describing, and they're undermining the interests of those for whom they purport to speak. But when you have people like Joe Biden claiming, the proponents of anything they oppose are advancing the new Jim Crow, as is the case with election reform laws in Georgia or Texas, it's tough to break through because they have so much firepower in terms of media behind them to drive that message. Just as we've seen with the COVID policy, they just pound. There's no underlying presentation of the facts. There's no a public debating of those who have a different viewpoint. It's just driving through every channel that they control this position that, for example, these election reform laws are the new Jim Crow, and it's just tough to pierce that, isn't it?
It is, but reality has an uncomfortable way of intruding itself. And the very fact that polls are now indicating 90% of Americans are against defunding the police. 80% of black Americans polled are against defunding the police. Thousands of black mothers who lost children to urban violence are now coming together to join in partnership with the police. You're seeing liberal city mayors now reverse course and are now reinvesting in hiring of police. And so it's, as I said, reality has a way of intruding itself, and you're going to see that these failed policies are going to have the consequence of forcing them to change course.
Are you
But
pleased?
unfortunately, too many of the Democrats are willing to sacrifice, as someone once said, they're willing to sacrifice black bodies for black votes. That's what they're doing.
Are you satisfied? Are you encouraged by some of the pushback you are seeing on critical race theory curriculum around the country in school districts?
Absolutely. One of our members, Ian Rowe, who heads up our curriculum committee, lives in Pelham, New York, a small town outside of New York. He just got elected to the school board, and he ran against Slate. And we're seeing other victories of school boards around the country. In fact, we have had seminars, virtual seminars with hundreds of parents and people fighting against critical race theories, and they are achieving victory on these school boards. So we're very pleased with the thrust of the movement so far to push back against it.
Yeah, and Mr. Woodson, you wrote in an article in National Review that critical race theory shouldn't be banned completely because we should fully understand its weaknesses. Can you explain?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think if you're against cancel culture, then you can't use cancel culture technique to do it. No, we should encourage the teaching of it as we do communism or fascism, but we should oppose the implementation of it. That's where the illegality comes in. This is where the opposition should come, but not in teaching the theory. No, I believe the best disinfectant is sunlight. And when you compel some of these critical race theories to say, like in Austin, in Texas, and certain school boards, the academic performance of students of 40% are failing basic reading. And now they are spending money on critical race theory. The question is, how does it improve academic performance? And I think you've got to put critical race theory in a position where it has to confront whether or not it is improving the conditions of students. And when you have that kind of measure, it can't possibly measure up.
You know, it's interesting you talk about how reality intrudes uncomfortably for the propagandists. And just an example of this, I think some applicability. The singer, this popular singer, Camila Cabello, she talked about Cuba recently. She's Cuban and Mexican. She said a lot of people think the protests are about a lack of COVID resources and medicine, which is really just the latest layer in a 62-year-old story of a communist regime and a dictatorship. For 62 years, Cuban people have been living under oppression. What started out as a socialist ideal of free healthcare, free education, food for all, turned into present-day Cuban people having to wait hours in line at the grocery store to come in and find the basic staples like beans and rice are 10 times more than what the average medical doctor in Cuba can even afford. She goes on to talk about the absence of freedom of speech and people being disappeared, tortured, imprisoned for opposing the communist line. And so, I mean, you can propagandize on these issues. You can tell people what they're seeing isn't real all you want, but at some point the scales fall from even the most ardent supporters' eyes.
And also I find that some of these extremists, I mean, when you look at all the money being spent on critical race theory in area, school boards are spending millions of dollars. And what is the return on those investments? What is the return? And so, again, reality is setting in. People are really beginning to question. When we released our book, Red, Black, and White, it sold out in a matter of just 2 weeks. When we released our curriculum, the first 3 lessons in our curriculum, we had 15,000 downloads in the first week. The critical 1619 had 4,500 downloads in a year. Mm-hmm. So Americans are really thirst for the truth. As someone said, If we abandon fact-based truths, then lies become normal. And that's what the left is trying to normalize lies. But we've got to push back against that. But it won't be done by just issuing proclamations or writing essays or whining about it. We've got to take it to the people suffering the problem, the parents, and let them speak for themselves. So what we're doing at the Woodson Center is arming parents and citizens with the correct information, that our essays document the fact that when whites were at their worst, blacks were at their best. We built railroads. We built our own towns, our own economic infrastructure, where we had $100 million in real estate assets in Bronzeville section of Chicago in 1929. We had 731 black-owned businesses in Chicago, in areas down that are economic wastelands. And so this was done under rigid segregation when racism was enshrined in law. And so the question is, how could blacks achieve these great economic and social gains under the worst racial conditions that this country offered? And our young people and our people are failing today in systems run by their own people. Most of these cities over the last 50 years have been run by black Democrats. And if race were the issue, then why are blacks failing in systems run by their own people when those same systems run under segregation prospered? But you see, these are the uncomfortable questions that people don't want asked. Instead, they retreat and say, oh, the problem is institutional racism. I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah,
maybe white people have some kind of ray gun that they can remote control device that they can ride past a black institution and point it there and cause black people to miseducate their own children. Maybe that's what we should be looking for.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's really interesting you point out about the popularity of the new book, Red, White, and Black, Rescuing American History from Revisionists and Race Hustlers, how popular that was as soon as it debuted on Amazon, as well as the downloads, and compared to the 1619 Project, because it seems to me that, you know, you're employing the right strategy. It's sort of the sell to the masses, live with the classes strategy, the Walmart strategy, sell to the masses, whereas the 1619 Project and critical race theory is really selling to the classes, and it is presented as much more popular, much more accepted than it actually is. It just happens to be a small cadre of people that have oversized platforms in our society. But underneath that, there's this revolt going on, as you say, in part because you and other scholars at 1776 Unites are getting the truth out. So it's a very interesting dynamic. I like it. I mean, it's almost like a counterinsurgency in military terms. Bob Woodson, founder and president of the Woodson Center, celebrating its 40th anniversary. Congratulations again. The book, Red, White, and Black, Rescuing American History from Revisionists and Race Hustlers. Thanks as always, Bob. Appreciate it.
And thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
For many men, divorce brings a bewildering sense of loss. You feel adrift, isolated, like you're the only person in the world. But the good news is, you're not alone. Cordell & Cordell is here to help. For more than 30 years, Cordell & Cordell has been there to guide men through all aspects of divorce. And we'll be there for you.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Chicagoland area attorneys, 4320 Winfield